Hey peeps, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk about Shokugeki no Soma or Food Wars chapter 200. Okay, apologies for the delay on the chapter, but let's just get right into it. Let's just talk about it. Overall, I think this is like a really good chapter of Soma. Like, it was very entertaining. There was one moment in this chapter which made me really laugh out loud, and I bet you all can guess what moment that was. That was seeing Soma and Saiba going at it. That was hilarious. Man, nice. Anyway, this chapter, what did it do? Well, it just filled in a bit more on the rules of the regiment, the cuisine, the 5-on-5. Is it going to be 5-on-5 for our group? Because we have 4 people and then there's 5. I think every time I've seen the picture, it's a picture of 5-on-5. Anyway, not the point. Moving on. The chapter just clarifies a bunch of things and just tells us how it works, and it tells us the way of winning, the way to victory for our group. What Gin is ultimately relying on is not really the individual skills of the chefs, but rather the teamwork in preparing the dish. And that's a really interesting kind of, I don't know, how would I say it? It's an interesting perspective. I wonder if we're gonna get a situation where the Elite 10 are all so talented that their talents just don't work well together. Like, what if they just don't like working with each other? Can you imagine Rindo in particular? If Rindo is oh wait, is she not participating? Was she removed? Anyway, for example, if Rindo was participating, could you imagine the Elite 10, or man, my words, the Elite 10 trying to keep up with whatever she was doing? I feel like she's a very random person, so maybe it'd be the same kind of scenario where we got with Saiba and Soma at the end of the chapter. Regardless, seeing that they're working on teamwork is kind of setting up that maybe we're going to see something embarrassing happening on the Elite 10 side, where maybe the Elite 10, because they're all so full of themselves, they just kind of don't interact that well together. Because we did see Soma and the first seat working together and they did very well. But this is a case where now the other people in the Elite 10 might have giant egos and might think that their way is better, and they might try to get in the way of the other person. It'll be really interesting. I really doubt that people who are at the top of the school would fall that easily, but I could see it happening in a stress situation. Like, maybe if they feel a bit of pressure, maybe they think that they need to do that or else they're gonna lose. And that would be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see if some kind of external force could get involved and actually throw them off their game or make them more likely to not really work together. Anyway, that segment was pretty cool, just knowing that we're gonna go in for teamwork. Teamwork's gonna be what's gonna get the win, or is what's being hoped to get the win. Anyway, from there we get a lot of little funny moments with Gin and Jochiro, and you know, that's enjoyable. It's fun to see these guys just going at it. Pretty much anything with Jochiro fighting is just a nice little segment. And overall, the comedic moments of this chapter really worked well for this chapter. Now, in the chapter, when we get into the more serious thing, when we actually are seeing the teams being set up for the practice match, and seeing that Irina and Soma are with Toshiro and Gin and Aldini and Todoroki on one team, it's pretty cool. Truthfully, I was on Todoroki's side. I really did think, oh yeah, they got Soma, they got Irina, they're probably gonna win. But then I started thinking, but wait, they added the stipulation that you can't communicate while you're doing this, and I thought, wait, Soma and Jochiro are both very haphazard. They're very unpredictable. How is that gonna work when you have this kind of scenario? And then I thought, well, you know, they already have worked together. They lived in a restaurant, for Pete's sake. They can deal with it. But then I thought, no, Soma was always following a very specific recipe whenever he was at the diner. He was following his dad's recipe or a recipe that he came up with himself. Regardless, the dishes were standard. There was no room for creativity or no room to go crazy, because that was part of their job. And so seeing the conclusion that no, they are at each other's throats was hilarious. I love that. I love that so much. That was great. But let's move away from Soma and Jochiro and Irina for a moment and just talk about Aldini. I think he really stepped up here. I think this chapter was, or that segment of the chapter was more just showing off like, yeah, Todoroki and Aldini, Takumi, he can do it. They can do stuff. They got this under control, and it was just cool to see him watching what's going on and knowing, hey, I got you. And again being like, yeah, you got me. And then Todoroki getting her confidence and doing that too. I'm actually way more happy for that. I would not mind if Soma goes down while Aldini and Todoroki get their victory, because they deserve it, man. They've been through a lot. They deserve it. Todoroki might not be as talented or as intuitive as Soma and Aldini are, but they deserve that victory. So you know what, good for them. I actually think that was a pretty strong part of the chapter, and it was cool to see. It's cool to see when your other favorite characters get a moment in the spotlight to show like, yeah, they can do this. Overall, it inspires a lot of feelings of confidence. Anyway, this is going to be a relatively short chapter impressions. I'm running out of time, but overall, I really loved this chapter. The comedic moments worked, and overall the chapter wasn't that complex. It was just explaining the cuisine, explaining the method of victory, and explaining how they're going to train in order to get those guys close to victory. And overall, you know, it's very self-contained, and what it really just is we get this path that's set for us within the chapter, and then it's just filled with nice moments for the characters to show off what they can do, and it's filled with those nice little comedic moments. Overall, a very enjoyable chapter, I think. Anyway guys, let me know what you thought of the chapter, and let's leave it there. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.